to order. And so can we start with the roll call, please?
Mr. McNulty?
Here.
Mr. Pierce?
Here.
Ms. Foster?
Yes, here.
Mr. Avadanula? Ms. Sundar?
Here.
All right, tonight we're here to discuss zoning application ZON-25-02. And so just some of the ground rules real quick. The township staff will give us a report, and the applicant will have a chance to provide, to present on their project. This will then be followed by questions and comments from the commission. When the commission is ready for public comments, there will be an opportunity for members to speak, but also for the public to share as well. All right.
I do need the backup recorder. I noticed. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'll go grab that. Yep.
Do we need to suspend for a minute?
I think I'll just go ahead and plow through. We have the main recording going.
Okay.
But we just want our backup recording in case there's audio difficulties. Speaking of difficulties, we are having video difficulties, so if you are tuning in via our YouTube live stream, sorry you can't see us here in the room, but you can see what's on the screen that we can all see here. All right, so we are here to discuss rezoning case ZON-25-02. The applicant and owner of the property is ILOS2 LLC, care of John Wicks. The site is located on South Old State Road, having parcel ID 318-423-01011-002, with just over 5 acres. The current zoning is the PERD, which is the Planned Elderly Residential District. The summary of the application: the applicant is requesting to amend the currently effective development plan in the PERD district to allow changes to the building design, footprints, and locations of buildings, including adding basements with egress windows and allowing them to encroach into the building setback and to shift a sidewalk location. In terms of the history of the property was rezoned from Farm Residential District, or FR1, to Planned Elderly Residential District, PERD, in 2021. Although site work has commenced on the project, to date no buildings or streets have been constructed yet. For the surrounding area, to the north is Single Family Plan Residential District. To the south is another PERD, the Planned Elderly Residential District. To the east is the Single Family Plan Residential District, and then to the west are some FR1 properties, as well as South Old State Road. In terms of the comprehensive land use plan, the parcel in question can be referenced in sub-area 6 of the comprehensive land use plan. The sub-area recommends densities generally of 2 units per acre with centralized sanitary sewer. In addition, the plan does state that this area may be appropriate for a PERD. On the next page, you can see it's one on top of the other, but the top is the currently approved development plan, and then beneath it is the development plan that is proposed by the applicant. So those are the changes that we are here to discuss. We'll come back to this page as I go through those changes. Eric, if you don't mind going to the next page, please. The applicant is proposing some changes to the building elevations. These are not necessarily binding in nature, but these are conceptual. But just so you can see the changes that the applicant is proposing, the currently approved version, again, is on top, and the proposed new building elevations are underneath it. All right, so Eric, if you, I can read through this. If you want to go back up to the site plan page, we can kind of illustrate the changes there. So the road that runs east to west on the north side of the property, that is named, supposed to be named Myrtle Street, 5-foot sidewalk was on the north side in the currently approved. The applicant is proposing to shift that sidewalk from the north side to the south side of the street there. In terms of the building footprints and the locations, the building footprints are increasing slightly. So there's 2 types of units. There's a 2-unit building and then a 3-unit building. Each one is proposed to increase by approximately 300 to 400 square feet. So those buildings are increasing their footprint. To account for this, the locations are shifting a little bit, so proposed buildings 5, 6, and 7, which are, yeah, so they are 1 foot closer to the street pavement. Buildings 5 and 7 are now separated by 40 feet rather than 48 feet. So those are the 3 buildings in the center of the site there. So those essentially shifted 1 foot outwards. The increased mass of the buildings means that they're 40 feet apart as opposed to 48 feet apart that they were in the previous plan. Buildings 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are on the north side there, those remain 42 feet from the northern property line. In the original development plan, they were set back 20 feet from the sidewalk on the northern side of Myrtle Street, but since that sidewalk shifts to the other side of the street, they're now 20 feet from the road instead of 20 feet from the sidewalk. So the part of the amendment request is to allow egress windows to encroach into that building setback. So the building walls themselves remain 42 feet from the property line, from that northern property line. However, egress windows would be permitted to encroach up to 5 feet into that setback. So the walls of the structures themselves are not getting any closer to the property line, but the well of the egress window would. Egress windows are required by building code when there is a living space below ground. Building 7, which is the building on the east side to the south of Myrtle Street there, that one did shift about 6 feet closer to that eastern property line with the footprint increase. It is set back 20 feet from that north-south road there. I would note that the PERD does not have required setbacks in the zoning text, so there aren't specific requirements the applicant has to follow. These are only changes from the previous version. I talked about the egress windows. Again, they're considered to be part of the structure per the zoning code, so the applicant is requesting to allow those to encroach into the existing setback. We talked about the building design. Again, the designs were slightly altered to include the aforementioned basements as well as dormer windows. And again, while these are conceptual in nature and not prescriptive, the applicant has provided these to show the types of structures that they plan on building with their development. In terms of name changes, the applicant did note this in their application. This isn't something that's really enforced by zoning, but just for information, the name of the development is proposed to be changed to Enclave at Old State instead of Independent Living at South Old State as it was previously known. And then the street name in the prior plan was Rhonda Road, which is now proposed to be changed to Sydney Street. And then I would note that there were 2 divergences from the code requirements that were previously approved in the version, so they're not really at issue today, but they are noted there. One was allowing this project to have less than the minimum of 10 acres required in the PERD, as well as divergence granted for density with a gross density of 4.2 units per acre. Again, those were both approved by the zoning commission and the township trustees when this was originally proposed in 2021, just there for your reference today. The overall, the unit count and street layout are not changing with this proposal. Only one other thing to note, which is there really was not any review from other agencies like there are sometimes with major rezonings or amendments, because this was amendment that didn't change anything substantially, did not go to Delaware County Regional Planning Commission for a recommendation. And in discussion with, informal discussion with the Orange Township Fire Department, they felt that, in relaying to me that because the street layout was not changing, that it didn't require their review. I believe the applicant is working on getting written confirmation of that, just to be safe before going to the township trustees. That is all I have for now. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
So the number of units that was previously approved, the same number of units now?
Correct.
Just some divergences, no need for the additional approvals because it was
Correct, the unit count is not changing, and really, there's no additional divergences, it's just a modification to the development plan. We did review this with our legal counsel at the Delaware County Prosecutor's Office to, see if these changes required coming before this commission to change the development plan, and our legal counsel confirmed that yes, this process does need to be observed in order to change the site plan of the project.
Okay, all right. Anyone have any immediate questions?
Is the percentage of impervious surface changing?
It changed slightly, but it's, the minimum is 50% in the PERD, and they are still over the 50%.
Still over, okay.
So it changed slightly, but not enough to trigger any divergences or major changes.
Any other questions for Robin?
It's already been approved once.
Yeah.
Not much changes.
Yeah.
Delaware County Regional Planning's already seen this. They saw it in
Yeah.
'21. That's why they didn't need to
Yep.
act again.
Okay. We'll give the applicant an opportunity to present his project.
Good evening, Commission members. Appreciate the opportunity to present to you. My name is John Wicks with Real Property Design and Development and ILOS 2 LLC. We're the owners of the property, and we're the developer and builder of the property as well. Robin mentioned that there was we were unsure whether this met the threshold of needing to come back to the commission, but I think mostly because of the addition of the basements and the egress windows into the setback, they thought that let's err on the side of caution and come back. It's important to mention with respect to that setback that we provided 42 feet, whereas typically between different types of residential uses, 35 feet is a minimum. So we exceeded that on our original application. It's also important to mention that we had shown patio encroachments into that 42 feet with the original site layout. So really the only change is now we've got an underground window well that won't be visible, above grade, also encroaching, but still none of these encroachments will be greater than the 35-foot typical setback. The street names that we show on here, just, I don't even know if it's a zoning thing, but those have already been approved by the Delaware County map room, and they've established addresses for us as well. So what we got is more of a refinement to the plans. The market changed since 2021 considerably. Costs have changed quite a bit as well, so it's taken us a while to get to the point where we are now. As we revisited the project, we realized that there's more demand for kind of a larger footprint of building with some additional living space, which is why we added the finished basements, or the full basements with a finished basement option, and some second floor, which is considered like story and a half living space up in the attic. So those are that really encompasses the entire changes. We shifted, in order to respect that 42-foot setback along the north, that's why we shifted the sidewalk to the south side of the road so we could still maintain enough room for a car to park between the garage and the pavement. And that's really substantially the only changes that we are requesting.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments for the applicant from you?
Right now, nothing for me.
Okay. All right.
Nothing
All right.
for me too.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
All right, now if there's anyone in the public that wishes to speak or share any comments, we ask that you come to the podium. And when you come to the podium, please state your name and your address, and then you can keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. And certainly if there's anyone else that has comments or anything to share after that, whoever the first individual is, if it's something that's already been previously stated, you can say you agree with the previous person, so that we're not hearing repetitive comments, but we certainly can acknowledge your agreement or your understanding of what was previously said. So whoever would like to come up initially, please do. State your name and your address, please.
Alicia Edwards. I live in the farmhouse at 8119 South Old State, right in the middle of the development. I appreciate your time tonight being here and serving our community. I do too. I'm a teacher in the district. I've been here since Orange High School has opened. I'm also resident, obviously. I moved in 3 years ago. I have 2 kids with special needs, and I have a lot to say about asking you all to give this a better scrutinizing eye and a better annotation of the plan, and I'll address some of those issues right now with you. So first, I did submit this form ahead of time to give Mr. Wick time to review it, and maybe you've also seen it, I'm not sure, but I'll reiterate some of the points that I've already sent in ahead of time. The first thing is that I do support responsible growth in this district, right? It's a marvelous school district. I'm a part of it. I'm a part of the community. I want it to thrive. However, there are some things that I want to talk about. So first, the stormwater and drainage. With the proposed pond removal, how it's been already removed, and then there's a pond that's supposed to be implemented and put into the other side of the zoning area. I would like a stormwater management plan required showing no increase in runoff or drainage into the neighboring properties. Per section 1506, where it says 1506C under borrow pit, and it's number 3. It says 50 feet to a property boundary line except with the written consent of said adjacent property owner. I have not granted my consent for any excavation or drainage redirection in any way. When I moved in, I was asked to put a sewer in my backyard, and I declined. So that brought attention to itself that I should be concerned that drainage would possibly be an issue. Next, we have some privacy and buffering, and I know from talking to neighbors just in the neighborhood that the plan lacks adequate screening along the north and east property lines, and I asked the commission to require a solid privacy fence around and dense evergreen buffer to protect the neighbors' privacy and property values. The third would be the traffic and emergency access. You know that an emergency road will go through the middle of it and right next to my driveway. The emergency access to the South Old State Road should be permanently restricted emergency use through the recorded deed. Additionally, the intersection at Hayworth Drive should be reviewed for peak hour congestion concerns. In addition to that, let's see, on page, there are not page numbers in this, but I do have, it is section G of where we just were under 1506. It says also, I request written assurance that any fill or regrading near my lot complies with section 1506G, ensuring no water stagnation, drainage redirection, or erosion is in my property line. Also, in the proposal here, section 1508 under procedure C3, it clearly states whether the proposed development advances the general welfare of the township or the immediate vicinity. However, I want you guys to think about this. So I've had materials and sewer systems stored on my property. I was given like 2 months' notice that my fence would be taken out or it would be bulldozed by a bulldozer. Portions of my fence have been taken out without my permission. So based on this precedent and some of these behaviors, what are we going to expect as this development continues? So storing material on neighboring properties without permission and mishandling fencing boundaries does not suggest this developer is advancing the general welfare of the township. So if it says we're inclined to support the general welfare of the township, that's not supporting our general welfare. Some other things are the construction phase oversight. Given the scale of the development and the proximity to existing homes, I request the commission require a formal construction management plan to regulate dust, debris, truck routing, and road damage. When it comes to the 55 age requirement and rental stability, it would be really nice if we could come up with a HOA ahead of time that would restrict renters less than 12 months at a time. Let's see. And then personally, and I know this has nothing to do with zoning, all of what I just said did. So the fencing along my property was marked incorrectly. All right, Mr. Wick said, hey, I did you a service, and I went ahead and put flags as the developer on the land to help you out for your fence. And because I'm not in a traditional suburban sprawl neighborhood, right, it made sense because I don't have a development that I have to answer to or get proper permits as somebody else would have to, because I literally bought my land from the developer. So he marks the land with flags, and my fence goes up, and then I'm told 2 months before they take it down that it's on their, part of it was curved on their land. I have a feeling as a teacher that said developer read it backwards, because the land was supposed to curve this way, not this way. But nonetheless, my fence has been obstructed. Again, I mentioned that I have 2 children with Fragile X syndrome, and there's been a temporary orange fence, but it's summertime, and I'm mama bear, and I need to protect my kids, and this fence needs to get back up quickly. My driveway, when I moved in, was damaged from the construction vehicles coming in and out while I was in contract for this house. And 2 years later, it was replaced. But it took a lot of back and forth and a lot of advocating to get what was already what I had bought in contract. A portion of my fence remains damaged, repaired, even standing, it's been damaged. There's holes on the other side from the construction, including the panels poked through or leaning. And this has created a lot of unnecessary stress. I bought my house because it was perfect, and it was isolated to take care of my kids who just need privacy, and I put up a privacy fence just for that reason. And I'm all about community, and I'm all about a 55 and older community. Who better than some babysitters behind me, right? And learning, being part of the elderly community, I'm in. But a lot of this is just absolutely unnecessary, and it needs to be rethought before we just check a box to get this zoning done. Thank you.
Anyone else have any, or you have any questions you can answer?
I think we can hear everyone
Yeah,
comment.
that's fine.
And then, yeah.
No worries.
Hi, I'm Julie Leonard. I live at 6411 South Old State Road. We have been in the township for about 40 years. Excuse me. And we have had experiences with developers that have been exceptional. We have worked with Renob, we have worked with Silvestri, we have had MI on 3 sides. We've also allowed, I'm not even sure who the developer was, of Glen Oak Estates access our property with heavy equipment in order to put a sewer in that had to be inclined at 25 feet in order to be able to access their property. I have been up and down South Old State extensively and have watched the development happen, not knowing who was all involved in this. But I think that the fence is just an eyesore. Unfortunately, the homeowner can't do anything about it. It seems as though the developer does have some responsibilities in order to replace that fence in a nice, tidy order, just to make our township beautiful as you're walking up and down South Old State. I had 2 other concerns. One is the sign that has already been placed. Having been a former member of the zoning commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, I'm sorry, it always seemed like signs went through that group. However, I don't know how it's handled now. It's been 36 years since I have been on that committee. But it seems as though the sign's already there, and in my opinion, it's misplaced. It's up on the roundabout, where I guess fire trucks are going to be going through, rather than at the point of entry. And the landowner that is close to there recognizes that there's already been damage to her drive. Being in an area where we have already worked with 3 big developers, we had similar instances where equipment's coming in, going back out, people stopping, going, oh, geez, that's a construction interest, oh, we'll just turn around and go back the other way. So I do ask the commission to give some consideration to the one existing homeowner that is experiencing some frustrations with a developer that has come in relative to her fence damage as well as the signage. Perhaps that sign needs to be placed where they can actually get into the development rather than at the roundabout where there is not going to be any entrance at all, to also protect her and her children from having people coming in, passing the sign, oh, geez, we missed the development, turning into her driveway, backing across South Old State until it gets too broad to be able to do that, then backing out and going down into the current retirement home to be able to access the property. Excuse me, one last thing, buses. I'm 67 years old. My grandson lives with us as well as our son. So if you have a planned development that is an over 55 development, you could potentially have children in that development. And I'm not certain whether this development has been planned with the understanding that buses may be coming in. Not only to protect the children that are getting on and off the bus during 7 o'clock in the morning and at 4 o'clock at night when it's dark, but also the residents that may be walking. Generally, elderly people are up early and they are walking, and I just want to protect them as well. So I asked you to consider 3 things. One is, are there going to be buses and children? Secondly, is the sign placed properly? And third, to consider the beautification of our township and replacing that fence. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
I am Sandipan from 2000 Maxwell Avenue. We are in the Walker's community facing the north of the property. So I have 4 concerns. First of all, let me start by appreciating the builder that he is upgrading it from minimalistic houses to one with a basement, which is good. I personally like it because it brings the property value up for the entire neighborhood. But on the other side, most of this type of buildings generally have privacy fences on their backyard. Like Epcon and anywhere you go, there are a lot of properties are coming up. They always have privacy fence between the houses and like between their own backyard and also the backyard to the houses behind them. This one doesn't have it. So my request would be to put a privacy fence because these houses are pretty close to each other. So that is number 1. Number 2, I understand based on the the original plan of the elevation and now the plan has changed. So my concern is, and I just saw it right now. So I don't have the details yet, but will it be second story or will it still be the first story with some beautification on the second thing? So that is my second concern. The third concern is when the construction was happening, they are moving mud, they're moving soil at that time. All the houses in the neighborhood was shaking like anything. We did not get any notification. We actually called up and then like something happened, I don't know, some construction stopped or they actually reduced it. But when they were compacting the soil, all the houses around was shaking like anything, and we are concerned about the impact that will have to our foundation. So that is a major concern because it will be a collateral impact. And lastly, one of the point I raised even last time is that it says it's a senior living, but how do we enforce that it's a senior living and not that my father is buying the house and letting me stay in that? So what is the process to ensure and vet that actually seniors are living there or seniors are not handing it over to people who are not 55 plus or living with people who are less than 55 plus? So what is the process to vet it? I get the intention is good, but I don't see how about the enforcement. So 4 things: privacy fence, details on the elevation, the foundational risk on the nearby properties, and enforcement of 55 plus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything to share? Okay.
I have a question.
for the developer?
Maybe they can answer some of the
Yeah, that's what
public
I
questions
do, yeah.
and concerns before.
Yeah.
But
Do
if-
you have, like, comments to share with whatever concerns
Let-
they
let-
came up with?
I got it. I got it. I'm gonna let you ask your question, since you wanted to ask him a question.
I did.
And then we'll give you an opportunity
And
to
I'm sure you're
respond
going to address it, though, but it was sticking out in my head about the sign, because I noticed this sign, but I didn't think that was a permanent sign yet, and I could be all wrong. I noticed it when I was driving up South State. And so is that the permanent sign for this for this development?
Well, it's a marketing sign, so it's not our permanent entrance feature.
Right.
And we did, I think there was some miscommunication because I hired a sign company out of Powell, and they told me that they had submitted a building or a permit for the sign, and I come to find out they installed it before they actually received permission to put it in. So we may end up having to relocate the sign depending on what the comments are. But I was going to leave that in my sign consultants in their control
Right.
to take care of that.
All right, Mr. Wicks, if you want to take some
Yeah.
time to.
Sure, happy to.
Address any of the.
And I appreciate the public comment, and I do appreciate people's concerns, neighbors' concerns. I'll start with the first commenter. So, first of all, this is here for a zoning meeting, and it doesn't have anything to do with construction or engineering, but of course, we have a stormwater management plan, we have engineering drawings, we have signed, stamped sewer and water plans that were all approved by the county engineer. So she's welcome to look at those. Those are public record. She mentioned a borrow pit. We don't have any borrow pits, so that doesn't apply. Borrow pit is where you excavate a deep section of earth to get good clay material and to utilize that in somewhere else at the site, and we didn't do that on this property. The emergency road is marked on the plans as being emergency only, and that the fire department will require that as well, so it will be physically marked out in the field for that as well. Phil, she mentioned a couple of sections of the codes, 1506, 1508. I guess first, again, not really zoning issues, but this was filled and graded per the approved plan from Delaware County. That's the reviewing body that reviews unincorporated areas for development. The township doesn't have the resources to review those on their own. With respect to the fence, there has been a lot of back and forth on the fence. The unfortunate reality is the fence was built on our property. She referred to some flags that I had put out there. It was before we sold the property. I had put flags in the four corners roughly, and I said these are roughly where the property line is. But a survey was provided at closing, so typically you would give your survey to the fence contractor, and they would put the fence in along the property line. So we gave her the opportunity to pull the fence up, on our property and set it aside so that it could be reused. In fact, we did pay our contractors to take it up in a controlled way and stack them up on our property so that they could be reinstalled in the proper place. But that, it was out of our control that the fence was built on our property. We didn't pick up on it until we started looking at construction again. Formal construction management plan, that's part of the engineering plans. The driveway was damaged. We had agreed that we would replace it. We replaced it 2 years, 1 year. We were still using it to take down the barn that was back there. So I don't remember the exact time frame, but we did replace it per our contract, per our agreement. Everybody was satisfied. And then, as far as whether the house was purchased for serenity and seclusion, I mean, it's always been part of this development ever since I acquired the property back in 2020. So, the fact is it sat undeveloped for a couple of years, but here we are building it out now per the approved plans. We're not requesting changes to the zoning. The zoning's approved. We're requesting modifications to the development plan, which, as Robin pointed out, it's a couple building changes. We shifted a couple of them, but we didn't shift them any closer to the neighbors. And we in fact made them bigger, larger, more expensive, more valuable properties. I think every change that we made is a value add and zero value deduction on this. The second commenter mentioned a sales sign. We talked about whether or not it's permitted properly. Like I said, we'll get to the bottom of that, and if we have to move it, we'll move it. But it is in fact located by the entrance to the project. That's the dead end of that street is exactly where the entrance to the project is, so it's where it needs to be. We don't want to put it north of the existing house because that's the emergency access, and you know everybody probably doesn't want cars in and out of that location. So it's in the proper spot, subject to getting our permit finalized. And then is the project designed for buses? You know, this is a 55 and over designated site, but that doesn't mean there can't be any children there. What that rule means, and I think the law is called Housing for Older Persons Act, which I take offense to because I'm 55, but it says 80% of the homes within the development has to have at least one person that's 55 and over. That's all it says. So there can be, my wife is much younger than I am. She could live there and I could live there and we could be together in that place and we could have kids there. So we do not have kids of school age, but some people could be in that situation. So the project was designed to accommodate trash trucks, bus traffic, and emergency vehicles. So it's you know it's got the proper radii within the pavement to handle those movements. And then the third speaker talked about privacy fences. You know that may or may not be true. We provided a buffer plan on our landscaping plan that was approved by this council or by this commission. It met the zoning requirements for screening. So that doesn't mean we won't beef it up or add privacy fences, but we're not mandated to do that. That's going to be an on-site call potentially. He asked whether or not this is now a two-story product. It's what is referred to. It's still ranch-style product with you know, master bedroom in the first floor, but it does have some second-story living space. I think we talked about that in the original zoning, that was a possibility that we might add some loft space up there, just again, additional living space. And then adding the basements gives yet more additional living space. He did mention something that's got me very concerned. If the houses are truly sinking with respect to our construction, I've never heard of that before. We didn't use any like dynamic compaction or anything like that. All we did was run sheep's foot over the old soil. We excavate out the bad soil that was in where the existing pond is, excavate that down to native clay, and then you start putting in native clay. So the process is then we dug out the new basin, which had sufficient clay within that excavation area. We trucked that clay over and placed it where the original pond was, and it was placed in 2-foot lifts, run over with a sheep's foot compactor, and we had geotechnical consultants out there to monitor all of that construction activity, and they gave us proof that it was put in properly. So I'm not sure how neighboring properties or homes that are outside the line of influence of any of the work we're doing could possibly have taken place, but we'll take that seriously if we find evidence that that's the case. And then as far as how do you enforce the senior living, we addressed this during the original zoning. I think it's self-policed for the most part. I don't believe the township takes ownership of that. It's the condo association. It's designed for active adults, 55 and over. The sign says that. All the plans state that. So that's the intended user for this, and we intend to comply with that. I think that was all of the comments that I heard. If I missed something, please correct me.
Can I jump in and add 2 points of clarification on, so one, the real estate sign, yes, we have a permit that's applied for. It has not been approved yet. We had some clarifying questions about the location. We will be following up with that. It has to be set back 15 feet from the right-of-way of South Old State, so that we just need to make sure that that is observed. For the permanent monument sign, Ms. Leonard is correct. That would have to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals for a conditional use. So that's not the permanent monument sign, but we do have a pending permit for the temporary sign. In terms of enforcing the age restriction, Mr. Wicks is correct. The zoning says that one person and 80% of the units have to be 55 plus. There is a provision in the text that basically we have to do kind of a yearly check-in to have some oversight on that. If we found that it was out of compliance, then in theory, it could be a zoning violation.
Okay. Mr. Wicks, one question I have is, the original plans that have already been approved, you met with the community and had conversation with the neighbors or invited them to a conversation?
I did. I actually hosted an open house on the property. And I think there were probably half a dozen, maybe 8 different groups that came by and asked questions, and we held that in kind of that public forum.
And in your original submission, if there were reasonable things that you need to adjust, you made some adjustments or attempted to accommodate if it was appropriate?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't remember specific concerns. I know that one of the concerns was how close the units would be to that north property line, and that's when we adjusted that from 35 feet to 42 feet, which was, you know, fairly big concession because it kind of crunched everything together within the site. But, you know, we committed to that, and we're still happy to adhere to that setback.
And for this particular project, or the modifications, did you reach out to the community, or was there a need to, or did you believe that there was a need to?
I'll be honest with you, I thought this was gonna be administrative. You know, we really, in fact, you know, my conversations with my attorney said it probably is, but I get it. You know, you wanna tread lightly and you go through what you believe is the proper channel. So I did not. I felt like at the end of the day, what we're proposing here, and I still feel is a much better product than what we had originally. And there were no substantive changes that really had any negative impact as far as from my opinion.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I do have a question about the elevation. When it comes to the 2-story, is it all the homes is going to come with a second story and a basement? Or there are only few homes? How do you?
Well, we've only got 22 homes and 8 buildings, so we're trying not to vary with the product type too much from building to building, but it's going to be market driven. If we have trouble selling units that are, you know, full basement and some second story living, then we have the option. Those are options that we would not build the second story. We believe that additional living space up there is beneficial to this demographic.
I do get about, I do get it about the additional space, but it's not a ranch anymore. When you add a basement and a second story, it becomes a single family, freestanding home.
It still meets the definition of ranch because there's not a full second story. The roof starts above at the top of the first floor line. So all the living spaces within the roof structure, like I said, attic space. It's like finished attic space.
Oh, attic space?
Yeah, with dormer windows out the back.
It's finished.
Oh, okay. I did not know it's attic because he said like additional space, so, okay. Attic makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the height of the buildings hasn't changed.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions?
I do not have questions, but just a comment that your past history of placing a sign without getting the full permit or damaging neighbors' driveway don't show well. So we would suggest you to not, to take care more in your construction practices.
Okay, yeah, as I mentioned, I have a consultant who did the sign for me, and they told me that the permit was there. I know that's still on me, and then as far as the damage to the driveway, that was part of an agreement I had with the purchaser of the house, that we would be using that, and then we'd pave it when we were done. So there, to my knowledge, I know there's no construction traffic using the driveway since we closed it off. So that was just prior to us doing construction.
And that person is not here with respect to the driveway issue? Is that person
The
here?
young lady right there.
Okay, okay, same person.
Yeah.
But you'd already had that agreement that you would take care of that?
And it's been satisfactorily corrected. It's nothing recent.
And was
Okay.
but when was the agreement? Was that in 2021 when you?
2022, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Just one more.
Sure?
Sure.
Yeah,
Come on up.
please. Yeah.
Please come up.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
excuse me, you need to come up to the podium.
Again, I'm Julie Leonard at 6411 South Old State. Just need to have clarification on. Come down this way, and now left.
Okay.
Okay, isn't that where the sign is right now?
Generally, yes.
Okay, so at the when this development's done, no, you can, yeah, it's going to be farther down this way where people are actually going to access the property, correct?
Well, they're coming in from the road that is at the very bottom of that picture. That's the dead end of that road.
Yeah.
That's the official entrance into the site, yes.
Okay, but isn't it way out here where you can actually turn into the current retirement center?
Where the
And
track-
then you turn left and go up probably 40, 50 feet to get to this roundabout, then go into the development. So actually putting the sign at this location where it says proposed right-of-way dedication, you're already beyond any place where you can enter into the property, because the next entrance is the emergency entrance.
We don't own the property down by the other intersection. This is the place the only place we can put our sign.
So you're saying that you are putting it on the most south side of your property?
That's correct.
I disagree with where it currently is as to it being.
Well, it's not,
south.
I mean, it's in the southeast, it's in the southwest corner. It's not on the property line. On the property line there's an emergency drive there that we have to maintain.
I think it's the black line, isn't it? The
Yeah.
black line is it?
That's correct, yeah. So we're maybe 20 feet north of that.
Perhaps the zoning appeals should consider whether a sign is necessary for this development. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, any other comments before we close off? Any other discussion on it? Okay. All right, so,
I just have one question,
you have
sorry.
additional question, go ahead.
Is there a change in the privacy requirements between when it was approved and now?
No.
The screening requirements for this to?
No, there is no change. And we do not regulate fences
Sure.
in our current code. So the property owner or future property owners, future residents would be able to put in fences in addition to what is proposed currently.
Okay, all right.
And before we vote real quick here, before I get a motion, Robin, there's going to be, developer's going to check with, was it Delaware, someone to make sure something happens? Was there checking with some other authority, fire department or something? Or we're all good there?
So what I recommended to Mr. Wicks is, I don't believe that the fire department will need to review this. For new developments, we will have, we will require that the applicant have a letter of approval from the fire department. Because the road network is not changing, I don't believe that's necessary, but what I suggested to Mr. Wicks is before the trustees approve, just make sure that you have written confirmation that the fire department says we don't need anything additional.
So that is the request, though, and you're good with that, right, to make sure that happens?
Yeah, I question whether it's necessary.
Yeah,
like you
it may
said.
not be necessary,
Facilities are
but
in
yeah.
the same place, the roads are
Yeah.
in the same place.
Yeah, yeah, it may not be necessary at all, but
Yeah.
just want to get clarification for good measure.
Sure.
Okay.
I have,
Yes, go ahead, please.
Is attic space considered occupiable? So that a ladder truck would have to be able to get to each one of those homes in order to be able to potential rescue?
Robin, any thoughts?
I don't know the answer to it, that's the reason why I'm posing
I mean,
that to you.
you say,
Well, normally you have to have a ladder truck access to a second-story home.
yeah, but it's not going to be, we're not
And
really
is an
talking about
attic
full.
space considered occupiable?
It will be finished living space.
Yeah,
So wouldn't you
And-
have to have access then for a ladder truck to be able to maneuver through the development?
but the height is not changing
That's correct.
from what it originally was, and the fire department
Has already approved it.
had
They
already approved
I
that.
think I just heard that they didn't need to.
No, they
Not
already
for-
did the
not
first
for
time.
this change.
First
you're
time.
already approved.
Nothing
But,
changed.
For
yeah,
this zone
yeah,
change.
we're just asking him to verify as he's,
I just heard something that
yeah,
said it didn't have to
gotcha,
approve it, and
yeah,
that didn't
yeah.
sit.
No.
Thank you.
yeah. So, in light of what we've heard, and closing off all comments now, in light of what we've heard, and what we understand, and the zoning rules. Can someone give me a recommendation?
Resolution.
Okay.
Resolution to recommend approval of zoning application number ZON-25-02 of ILOS 2 LLC. Motion by Pamela Foster to recommend to the Board of Township Trustees, the Board, the approval of zoning application number ZON-25-02 of ILOS 2 LLC, the pages of which are each stamped received with Orange Township zoning on 4/11/2025, requesting the amendment of the currently effective development plan for property owned by ILOS 2 LLC, application number ZON-21-02, upon finding that it is in the interest of the public convenience, comfort, prosperity, or general welfare, or sufficiently in accordance with the comprehensive plan.
All right, I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Motion seconded.
Okay. Can we take a vote?
Those voting, Mr. McNulty,
Yes.
Mr. Pierce,
Yes.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Vadenula,
Yes.
Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right. Do we have,
Minutes.
so it looks like we have some approval of minutes as we continue on with the business of the board here today. Approval of minutes from April the 22nd, 2025, ZON 24-05 minutes, and approval of April 29th, 2025, ZON 24-05 minutes. Is there any conversation, discussion, or thoughts on any of that?
Oh.
All right.
I move that we approve the minutes from April 22nd, 2025, and April 29, 2025.
All right, can I get a
Motion
second?
seconded.
All right, can we vote on that?
Mr. McNulty,
Yes.
Mr. Pierce,
Yes.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Vadenula,
Yes.
Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
Is there any other business before the zoning commission? Yes, sir. Yeah. Would you come up and state your name, please, and address?
My name is John Beatty. I live at 6726 Fallbrook Trail, Delaware. Even though it's not Orange Township, it's Delaware. I just wanted to have a question. I'll be coming to the zoning appeals meeting on Thursday night. Okay. There was a request by the McDonald's up here on 23 to build a monument sign. There, the zoning there says there's not to be any monument signs, period, okay? It has that, I think Eric and Tesla, we were here last month and it got kicked down another month to get reviewed further. My question to that is that the zoning there says no monument signs. We had Crimson Cup ask for the same thing. They were denied and told that they couldn't have one, okay? I see Dennis, you're
Well,
questioning.
I'm wondering where the no monument sign came from. You know, that has been like written in stone forever here. I mean, so I'm not sure where that came from.
I agree that it does, and what McDonald's is trying to do is get a, sorry, the wrong word.
Variance.
A variance
Yeah.
for that.
They want something else.
They
Okay.
want a monument sign.
Yeah, so
They want-
you're saying that. when
That's
you store-
standard.
Yeah,
That's required
Yeah.
for Orange Township. You know, if you do something other than monument sign, you're gonna have to get a
that's a
variance.
variance.
Right, it
So they're
says
gonna
no-
have to approve
It says
it.
no monument sign, and what the zoning appeals board in their vast wisdom said last week when they went into
You've seen this thing.
executive session with their lawyer, came back and said, well, we have a problem with your monument sign having digital, okay?
Oh.
Yeah.
Would you want to get rid of the digital? And then the guy said, well, if we get rid of the digital, will you approve the monument sign? And they said, well, I can't tell you that, and can't say that for sure, okay? And I'm quite confused how we have this commission who says it's set or come up with what the zoning regulations are. I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong
Yeah,
terminology.
yeah.
Zoning is in the book.
It's in the book.
There's a zoning code, so it's not what we come up with, it's in the book.
It says no monument signs.
Yeah,
Period.
but- yeah.
But they're coming with a variance and saying, hey, I want to have it.
Yeah.
Can you give me that variance? And
Yeah.
I'm having a very deep problem with that.
Yeah.
Because others have been denied. Soon as they get approved, then those others are gonna come back and say, I want one, and they get denied again, and then now you have a lawsuit
Yeah.
against the city because you gave to him, but you're denying me. Why are you discriminating against me?
Well,
Because I sell homes.
just, and don't mean to cut you off, but just a quick way to look at it, you know, this commission acts more as a legislative kind of group. This is what the policy says, and
Created
that sort of, yeah.
the zoning,
So,
right?
and, yeah,
Is
yeah,
what we're- So you and past commissions.
And BZA has that to look at. I was on BZA for 10 years. I
Yeah.
termed it out, all right. And BZA always has that to consider. Hey, if we approve this, we're gonna have lots of others that come in and want those same things. And they're very cautious about that situation and making those decisions to, you know, that's gonna open that up.
And the reason where I'm coming from to ask the question is in that same meeting last month, the Pizza Cottage up here, further up on 23, across from Wendy's and so forth. They asked for a monument sign and was put in a monument sign. But I don't know if that particular area had a restriction against it or not. I'm not positive.
Robin, you want to share any quick light?
Yeah, so
And
first of all,
understand.
I don't think this is the appropriate forum for
Yeah.
talking about active BZA
yeah,
cases.
yeah.
This is
Yeah.
a separation of powers, so
Yeah.
the
It's
BZA.
separation of powers, but they're the ones that created the
Correct.
thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
And-
I'm
This
asking
is-
why can it be that particular regulation be removed and allow them to be able to build?
Yeah, well, I think from our perspective, what is written, and that's the way it is for right now. And we allow the other group to, other commission to make their own determination, make their own decision from that, not trying to influence that or drive that in any particular way.
But I don't
Yeah,
understand.
so the Board
So
of Zoning
he's
Appeals
gonna
is created
choose.
by state law. It's required in Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 519, that and a property owner has a right to request a variance from any zoning law.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that it'll be approved, but they have the right to request.
I totally agree with being able to ask for it. That's not my problem. My problem is it's just like, all right, someone put into law saying you can't murder somebody. All right, now we put another group in here that comes along and says, for you, it's okay.
Well, but
But you understand what I'm saying? It's just-
No, I understand what you're saying, but let's bring a clarification one more time. Anyone, any property owner has the right to go and ask for a variance. So it doesn't matter whether you understand it, whether you appreciate it, whether it's confusing. The fact is, any property owner has a right to say, can I get a variance against whatever you said that's going to be the way it's going to be? So under that circumstance, for us to discuss it anymore is a moot point, because we can't remove the right from someone, right? We can't take the right from them making the request, and they don't have to give any justification for why they even make their decision, right? Because they're an independent body to
I get that
review
they're
whatever they,
different bodies,
yeah.
so how does it go again, how do you, for your commission here, the zoning commission, I think is what.
Yeah, again, I look at it like, again, the legislature, they make the laws, the judicial branch interprets or decides what's right or wrong, or what's right or wrong in that situation. It happens the same way here. We don't have any influence on them to say, you have to do this, or you have to do that. Our job here is, from the zoning perspective, is when someone comes with an application, determine whether or not it meets the zoning requirements. Once we've done that, according to the zoning code, once we've done that, anybody has the right to say, thank you so much for approving what you've approved for me. Now I'm gonna go to this BZA board and say, hey, you know what, guys? I'd really like a variance on this particular thing, and they have a right to do that. And that group doesn't have to look at what we said, what we thought, what we approved. They say, you know what? We agree with you.
And we
it's
don't
done.
matter to them.
Right.
we do not matter to any
Yeah.
decisions they
Yeah.
make in those variants.
Yeah.
Then
So
why-
in-
So then my question
Okay.
is why have a commission at all, okay, to create zoning regulations? If they can be just flipped and said yes instead of no per the zoning regulations.
Boarding zone of zoning appeals, that's what it's for any situation that may exist, you know, they can decide those, but that's not for
I
us.
understand that they can decide that, that's not my issue. My issue is why do you have a commission
Yeah,
that
there's-
creates it, and then you
so-
have a different group that says, what they said is bogus, I don't really
Yeah.
want to do it.
So I-
That doesn't
Real
make
quick,
sense to
real
you?
quick. Real quick. I appreciate your time, but in the interest of our
Yeah.
time, we're going to go ahead and adjourn.
Adjourn the meeting.
But certainly, any further discussion that you have, take it up with Robin.
we can
and the
talk
group,
about
and
this
they can,
offline.
he can give you additional insight on it.
You understand, I'm coming to you guys.
We-
I came
we
to
hear
last
you.
meeting because I wanted to hear what zoning, what people came in here to do. I see that a little bit.
Yeah.
I understand there's the two.
So let me assure you, Robin will be able to address.
I have nothing against it.
No, we got you.
It's just-
Good questions, and Robin will be able to address your questions and give you some additional insight. All right, thank you all, I appreciate your time. This meeting is adjourned.